Well, all right, everybody, welcome back to another fun-filled episode of The High Ground. I'm Reed.
I'm Matt.
Well, this time we thought we'd take a few moments to talk about well, not really a new show. It's been out for a few seasons, but one that's kind of took us by surprise in actually a good way, especially for in the world of today with, countless streaming services, endless original TV series, and go on and whatnot.
Not to mention the global hostility.
True, but let's just take it one thing at a time. So right now, especially in the midst of just endless, whether it be political, governmental, international, strife, confusion, and stress, taking things to a bit of a lighter note, talking about a show that's near and dear to our hearts, good old Ted Lasso.
Hollywood's most beloved character.
Streaming exclusively, which I believe is on, is it Apple TV?
Apple TV.
Well, it's one of those where it took me a while to kind of jump on the bandwagon. I want to say probably season 3 was probably just being released at the time. And, it's one of those where you're pretty much hooked within, the first couple episodes. The show is great in of itself, but really just the main character kind of ties everything together. Tell us a little bit more about good old Ted Lasso there, Matt.
Well, he's this obnoxiously, annoyingly high energy optimist. He's full of motivation, always got some quirky comeback, some quirky motivational saying. Completely opposite of an American football coach. That was his profession, and well, he became a grass fairy in Europe.
Well, I think it's one of those where I think anybody, especially from the Midwest, or just anybody that could identify with, pretty much any dad joke ever made, it's essentially 3 seasons of just that. Someone who's completely outside their element, fish out of water story, and yet at almost no point throughout does he really let it affect him, at least, on the professional side. And, best days, worst days, no matter what's said to him, he catches a lot of hell the first few episodes especially, and somehow he just
keeps on keeping on.
Keeps on keeping on, and or as Taylor Swift would say, just shakes it off and pretends it doesn't even faze him, to say the least. And
it's one of very woke of you.
Well, it's one of those where, funny enough, I found myself throughout all 3 seasons, like, it would happen every couple episodes or so, like either him or like one of the other main characters would have some just quote that kind of just stood out to me that I literally pressed pause on TV, I'm gonna write that down. I really like that. That's a, it'd be a good saying, a good way to put things. It's just something that's that really hits home. That's something true that I think is worth writing down.
Especially the goldfish. That's the one that stuck with me. Goldfish quote.
What was it? He pulls up one player aside and says, he had a horrible play or had a rough time, and he told him, hey, what's the
happiest animal on earth? A goldfish. They had a 10-second memory. So be a goldfish.
And it's one of those where it's so cheesy, it sounds so dumb, but the underlying message in it is, it couldn't be truer. And even if you're somebody who can't quite take it seriously, if nothing else, it makes you smile for half a second. And no matter what, you're in a better mood, whether it be the person in the story or the person just watching the TV show. Personally, I think there was one, I want to say it was either late in the first season or perhaps early in the second one. It wasn't even made by Ted Lasso. It was made by not the manager, the Higgins, I think, the
GM.
The GM, yeah.
The director of football operations. Sorry.
Director of football operations.
Pronouns and everything.
Oh, Jesus. But anyway, he said something to the effect of, he was talking about one of his family members, and Ted says something to the effect of, they've been treating you bad for a while, or hey, he doesn't really do things the way you like, and it's difficult to be around him. And he comes back and says, you know what? I love him for who he is, and I forgive him for who he's not. And it's one of those where I 100% pressed pause, and I could honestly just instantly relate to a few people I've known throughout the years, or the family members that kind of fit that same bill, to where, you'd be frustrated with family, friends, this, that, and the other, and just about who they are. And you can either, I think the real message that comes away from it is either you can choose to be mad, upset, frustrated, whatever, or you can just choose to love and care for them for who they are and not really hold what they're not against them. And it's one of those where it's like kind of a quick quip, but I really think it has some depth to it. That's worth mentioning.
That's kind of the underlying message of the whole show, isn't it?
I think so.
No matter what's thrown your way, just shake it off, move forward, accept it, learn from it, and always remain positive, because a negative attitude will not get you anywhere. And the only way to defeat negativity is with positivity. And Ted Lasso, I think, embodies that perfectly. And it's kind of why it's more relevant in today's climate with all the negativity in the media and pretty much everywhere. I think we all need a little bit of Ted Lasso in us right now. That sounded a little weird, but
I'll hold it against you this time.
All on us, not all in us.
I'll hold it against you next time, not this time. There's also another one I want to say was I'm pretty shut up. I'm pretty sure it was in the first season, maybe about halfway or just past the halfway point through. It's probably one of the more famous ones. You see it pop up on social media sometimes where he's sitting there playing darts. And the guy's sitting there, like talking shit. He thinks he's this foreigner. He doesn't understand things. He's a laughing stock.
Rupert, when he was playing Rupert.
Yeah, when he's playing Rupert. And what was it? He said something to the effect of be curious, not judgmental. When you come across something, stupid example, you come across somebody in the store who does something we might consider dumb, or hey, somebody cuts you off in traffic, and the first reaction is, oh, that guy must be stupid, he must be an idiot, must not know how to drive, blah blah blah. And I think the kind of point that he was making in that was, okay, instead of in that moment thinking all those things and jumping to all those conclusions, okay, being curious. So something that might look like something like, okay, maybe that person was in a hurry. Maybe that person, was trying to get his kid to school on time and he had to weave through traffic to do so. Or, hey, maybe there's an emergency he had to get to. Like I said, more curiosity side, wondering, hey, what is going on, as opposed to immediately jumping to conclusions and judgments. To which, once again, I feel like, it may be a silly TV show. It may, be something quick, but I really feel like that's one that kind of gives, at least me personally, kind of pause and makes me step back and think, and kind of like to your point earlier, I feel like that's something we could all maybe use a little more in our lives.
Oh, for sure. And through all the episodes, all the seasons, I feel like they've touched on purposefully many different everyday issues that you may come across. Divorce, struggles at work, struggles that are beyond your control through the media, whatever the struggle may be. I feel like they've tried to touch on all kinds of different types of struggles one might face during the day, and it kind of gives you a good background to deal with those struggles. It is, like you said, a pretty cheesy show. But it makes you stop and think, like, it's instead of fighting that negativity with more negativity, shake it off, make a joke of it, and every now and again you have to laugh at yourself. People take shit too seriously these days, and we've got to learn to be able to laugh at ourselves when we make a mistake.
Well, and I think also it really just rings true the whole idea of, like, you always have a choice of how to react to a certain situation, whether it be a situation, people, whatever. You are always in control of what you do and say. And I think the show kind of really just over exaggerates that, to where, once again, especially in the first half of the first season, where he's constantly getting shit thrown at him, insults, snide remarks, things that would normally tear a person down, and just, it doesn't even, immediately bouncing off him. And he just, somebody call him a piece of shit, and you're like, you know what? I think you're an amazing person. I think I would like you to have a nice day.
Well, if you once you're done watching Ted Lasso, the very first true motivational thing they touch on kind of defines the entire character for the entirety. And that's the goldfish. No matter what's going on, he's a goldfish. He, in 10 seconds, has forgotten about it. He's laughed it off, and he's moved on.
There's one more before we kind of wrap this segment up that I feel like deserves mention.
Is that Voodoo Ranger, our unofficial sponsor?
It is not. It's neither that or Coke Zero. Tonight it's Yingling Traditional Lager, America's oldest brewery.
Pottsville, PA. Holla.
There's one more. I think it was sometime in the second season when the therapist came in, and it really
Mine or Ted's?
in this example, Ted's. It did. I think, in my opinion, it did two things. One, it finally brought things around to where okay, we saw Ted struggling a little bit. We saw okay, the other side of that coin to where okay, some difficulties he was going through. All the stuff behind the scenes that he was kind of struggling going with, in spite of him always having that very optimistic outlook and demeanor towards people. And I think especially these days when there's been a very large effort to kind of destigmatize getting help, whether it be psychological, mental, emotional, whatever. And it's slowly becoming less and less of a taboo to where, okay, people feel less embarrassed by it. They feel less threatened and they feel more willing to, reach out for help when they need it. I think it's amazing, and especially in a show where it really shows him very reluctant at first to seek out the help, kind of brushing things off. Haha, I don't need it. No, that's nice for you, but it's not me. And really taking a few episodes to kind of show those walls being broken down to where he finally feels comfortable coming forward and talking about that. And I think we see especially towards the end of season 2, where it makes quite a difference and it really helps him get on the other side of those difficulties and kind of not necessarily move on from them, but I guess learning how to deal with them in a more healthy way.
Well, also on the flip side of that is it also kind of brings to light that no matter how positive someone can seem, no matter how happy someone can seem, like Ted Lasso did throughout his divorce struggles, that even the happiest person can need help. So it's good to just talk to people. No matter if they're the happiest person on earth, they could be going through some stuff, and you won't know. So always ask and try and get to know the ones that are around you, and because you never know who's struggling silently.
Well, and on that very positive notes, just remind everybody to please check us out on Spotify, TikTok, YouTube, and hopefully Instagram soon enough.
And remember, stay nerdy, stay knowledgeable. As always, take the high ground.